Before embarking on the next chapter in his journey, the noob first collects fully oxidized copper, replacing it with fresh copper blocks to be oxidized. He performs this daily task with the hope of eventually having a stack or two of oxidized blocks for the roof of his future home. Today, the noob will begin building his villager trading area. He will use the villagers which have been bred next door by the 2 villagers he collected from the nearby village. The 2 villagers have indeed been very busy. In the time that the noob needed to prepare for the trading area, he has obtained many dozen villagers. He doesn't need more at the moment, so he stops the breeding area by removing 1 bed, which is conveniently located adjacent to the basement area. He then starts creating a villager transport solution to move villagers one by one from the villager storage area to their future home. He starts by placing a dispenser, which he will later use to place a minecart in. The dispenser will place the minecart on powered rails, powered by a single redstone torch under one of the solid blocks that the powered rails sit on. Powered rails will make the minecart move by itself along the predefined tracks laid by the noob. He begins clearing a diagonal area upward to the basement. He then runs rail from the villager storage to the basement. He uses a few powered rails to ensure the minecart does not lose momentum as it travels upward to the basement. He adds a single button next to the dispenser to trigger it. The villager transport is ready. The noob tests it. The flowing water pushes all the villagers towards the powered rail, so they come in contact with the minecart as it passes. Although there are many villagers pressing against the block next to the power rail, the minecart can only hold one mob, so it will take one villager from the storage area. The noob then brings the first villager to his final home. He breaks the track below the villager as well as the minecart. One must be careful when doing this, as the mob can end up in the same space as where the minecart was located, as well as an adjacent or diagonal block that is 2 blocks high and available to the mob. As there were 2 legal spots for the villager to end up when the noob broke the minecart, unfortunately, the villager could escape its intended home. At this point, the noob can use a workstation to entice the villager back to his intended home. The stonecutter is also a villager workstation, and the villager immediately links to it. The noob breaks the stonecutter and places the lectern inside the area where he would like the villager to go. Eventually, the villager goes there, links to the lectern, takes the profession of librarian, and eventually stays there long enough that the noob can block him into place. When a space is not 2 full blocks in height, the villager cannot pass, so using a horizontal trapdoor or upper slab will keep a villager from escaping. The noob will now want to see what trades are offered by the librarian. If the items offered are not what the noob wants, he will break the lectern, so the villager loses its connection to it. He will then place it again, which the villager will reconnect to, but will change what it offers as trades to the noob. The noob will break and place workstations until he gets an enchantment he needs. Once he gets what he needs, he locks in the trade permanently by doing one trade with the villager. After this point, it is not possible to change the trade. Displayed is a list of the enchantments the noob is currently looking for. The ones on the left are a higher priority. In particular, the noob needs Sweeping Edge 3, so he can use his raid farm without getting killed by Vexes. The first trade on the noob's list comes up. It is Silk Touch. The enchantment is applied to tools to collect the same block as what is broken. It is used to collect items like glass, which usually cannot be recovered when broken, or grass and podzol, which would otherwise convert to dirt, or stone, which would otherwise be converted to cobblestone. It can retain ore blocks in their original state, which sometimes has its uses. Because the noob doesn't have a good sword yet, but at the same time needs to lock in the first trade with each villager, he gives one villager the profession as Fletcher using a fletching table. Fletchers will trade 32 sticks for an emerald. As sticks are easy to craft from bamboo, it is an easy way to obtain emeralds early game, at least until it is possible to use the raid farm. Now that the noob has some emeralds, he resumes his search for enchantments on his list. The next one that comes up is Fortune 3, which is useful on tools to get the maximum yield from a block when broken. This means, for example, more diamonds when a diamond ore is broken, more coal from a coal ore, more saplings from leaves, and more crops from farms. The next enchantment that the noob obtains is Protection 4. This is the highest level of protection that can be applied to armor and protects the player from taking damage when attacked. The noob then obtains an enchantment called Mending. Mending is likely the most important of all enchantments, as it can be applied to all weapons, tools, and armor, so that it can last forever. As the durability of an item with Mending is worn down, The experience earned by the player will recharge the same item as long as the player is holding or wearing the item at the time the experience is collected. Sometimes, villagers will not immediately take on a profession. Often, it is because it is nighttime. While it is not the case here, it can also be because the villager is not able to pathfind to the workstation, or the workstation is already claimed by another villager. Much patience is required when obtaining trades from villagers. The next enchantment obtained by the noob is Sweeping Edge 3. This is very good, as it means the noob no longer needs to obtain emeralds from the Fletcher. Instead, once he applies Sweeping Edge to his diamond sword, he can go to the raid farm. He will obtain significantly more emeralds in a shorter period of time, while also obtaining experience levels, which he needs to apply the enchantments that he will obtain from the villagers onto his weapons, armor, and tools. An anvil and experience levels are required to place an enchantment onto items. The noob crafts an anvil from iron and places it on the ground. When right-clicking the anvil, the noob can place the sword and enchantment book into the 2 inventory slots of the anvil and obtain back an enchanted sword, minus some experience levels. Once the Sweeping Edge 3 is applied, the noob returns to the raid farm. He takes a bucket of milk with him, which he will need to remove bad omen from himself before leaving the raid farm. To restart the raid farm, the noob proceeds to the upper level where the pillager captain was last captured in a boat. He kills the captain, which immediately gives the noob bad omen. At that point, he only needs to go down to sea level where the villager is located to trigger the raid. Once triggered, the noob can go back to the middle level to kill all the mobs from the raid, which will spawn in the upper chamber. In 1.21, the boat is no longer required in the upper chamber. Instead, the noob will drink a bottle of bad omen, which he will have collected from a previous visit to the raid farm. While the pillager captain will not give the player bad omen when killed, and also will not drop a bottle of bad omen during a raid. The act of taking the bubble column from the villager at sea level to the middle level ceases the raid immediately after starting it. So all hostile mobs killed are not considered part of a raid. The pillager captain will drop bottles of bad omen as a result. Alternatively, the noob can build a second farm at a pillager outpost to collect bottles of bad omen, which he can keep at the raid farm and drink after each raid is concluded. However, in 1.20, the noob will get bad omen during each raid, as he will kill several captains during a raid, and all he needs to do is go back down to the villager at sea level to repeat the process. At the end of each raid, the noob will jump down to sea level, trigger a new raid, and return to the middle level. At the end of each raid, by jumping down from the middle level, the noob will place more than 30 blocks between himself and the upper chamber, and the ravagers trapped in the upper chamber will despawn. All in all, this is a good start to the villager trading area. Once the noob has many more emeralds and experience levels, he can return to expanding his trading area and obtaining the remaining enchantments on his list. Join the noob on his journey at Noob-Friendly, so you too can make your own villager trading area.